So a while back, we took a look at this smartphone that runs full-fledged Windows 7, and that got me thinking, would it be possible to upgrade this thing to a newer version of Windows? Well, that's what we're going to be trying to find out today. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So unfortunately, no matter what we try, we're not going to be able to get this thing all the way to Windows 11 since it only has a 32-bit CPU. But I'll honestly be pretty impressed if we can push it to the latest release of Windows 10. So this is going to kind of be like a mini Windows upgrade saga because we're going to start by upgrading to Windows 8, then 8.1, and then 10, and we'll see how far that we can get. And we're just going to jump right into it. I've got a copy of the 32-bit release of Windows 8 right here. We're going to pop it into a USB CD-ROM/DVD drive that I've got plugged into here because of course this thing doesn't have one of those built in naturally with it being, you know, a smartphone. And there's the auto run, so we'll just go ahead and run that and see if we run into any problems immediately, which there is certainly a chance that we do. The one thing I'm going to be really curious to see if we are able to go through with this successfully is if everything on the phone still works, you know, if all those drivers are still functional in a newer version of Windows. So we're going to just click yes here, and the setup's preparing, so this looks like a good sign so far. And yes, by the way, I am using a USB keyboard and mouse just so I'm not constantly over here messing around with this tiny little trackball and this crammed keyboard. But I certainly do plenty of that in the original video if you'd like to go and check that out. Alright, we got the long license agreement that we're not going to bother to read. And we are going to keep Windows settings, personal files, and apps. This should be the in-place upgrade. So we'll click on next. And is it really going to be this straightforward? And by the way, if you missed the original video or if you just want a refresher, this does run Windows 7 Home Premium, so we are upgrading to the base release of Windows 8. We'll do the same with 8.1 and 10 if we even get that far. But I imagine if we can install Windows 8, we shouldn't have any trouble installing 8.1. Windows 10 is going to be kind of the, you know, the real test, I think. But let me not speak too soon because it still has not started the installation process yet. Ah, would you look at that? You see, I did speak too soon. Although this error looks like it's something that we can do something about because we just need to have more space on the hard drive. We need at least 16 gigabytes of space for the installation. And we only have 1.5 gigabytes free out of the 21.6 gigs available to us. So we are going to have to do a fair amount of deleting on this drive. And I guess we can keep this open because there is this refresh button down here. So we'll just minimize it and start going into like add or remove programs and just see what we can get rid of. So we'll open that up because this will let you sort by how much space these programs are taking up on the system. So let's see what the largest program is. Oh yeah, that's right. I tried to install Command & Conquer Red Alert 3. We definitely want to get rid of that. And then the next largest thing is the Japanese release of Adobe Reader 10, which is only 130 megabytes, so that's probably not even worth removing. I'm probably going to just look in like my documents and see, I mean, what else do we have on here that we can get rid of? And that got us down to 9.53 gigabytes, so we definitely have a fair bit more to do. Well, disk cleanup can get almost half a gig removed, so I guess we'll do that. We can get rid of the page file, so we can just, we can set this to 0. This is definitely going to impact performance, but we'll go ahead and do that. And there's also, I saw under the drive settings, there is this compress option. We're going to apply that. I do want to point out this is not at all recommended for the drive that you're currently booted off of because this will also impact system performance. You can see it's even taking a while to apply all these attributes to the drive. But the only way that like we're going to be able to install this is by doing these things. I mean, I don't know how much disk space this is going to save, but the Windows folder is the largest folder on the drive. Even if we get rid of all these other folders, we're still not going to have enough space because this thing is what, like 10 gigabytes, I think, when I looked at it? Yeah, close to 10 gigabytes in size. And all these other folders are not even a gigabyte in size, with the exception of, I think, program files is a little bit over a gig. Yeah, 1.35 gigabytes. So if we get rid of all the programs, we're still not going to have enough space. In fact, let's just see. We'll highlight all of this here. Go to properties. This is only 1.5 gigabytes of space, and again, we need to get up to, what is it, 16? And we currently have 10.9 gigabytes of free space. So even deleting everything else except the Windows folder is still not going to be enough space. I can see why this is something that I haven't seen anyone else do. And you know what else I haven't seen anybody do? Make that great of a segue into this ad for today's video sponsor, Surfshark, the VPN that can run on pretty much all of your devices at the same time thanks to its support of unlimited simultaneous connections. So the next time you find yourself getting bombarded with those annoying region-locked messages, or just want to hide your IP address from shady websites, they've got you covered with over 3,000 servers hosted in 100 countries that you can connect to change your device's location in a flash. But they're more than just a VPN, as they include some nice extras like their alternative ID feature, which can create proxy email addresses to protect your privacy, and an antivirus program to keep your devices free of malware. They also don't keep logs, so your browsing history is kept private, and they support advanced features like multi-hop and split tunneling. All their plans come backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee, and if you sign up at surfshark.com/michaelmjd, you'll get 4 extra months for free with the purchase of a year or 2-year plan. So be sure to check them out, and huge thanks again to Surfshark for making today's video possible. Okay, well, I've been messing around with this for a little while now, and I honestly don't really see a way that we're going to free up enough disk space on this drive without just deleting stuff from the Windows folder, which I definitely don't want to do. So I think we're going to restart the system and attempt to do a clean install. And I imagine this is something it's capable of doing because it does have some restore media that comes in the box that is on a CD. So we should be able to press like F2 or something when it's starting up to boot off of the disk. And what we may end up having to do is just do a clean install every single time for Windows 8.1 and Windows 10 as well. So I guess I could just try to go and jump straight to Windows 10. The only downside, of course, to this is that we're going to lose all of the drivers and everything that we currently have installed on the system. I also do not know what key it is that we have to press. I'm guessing either F2 or delete. It is F12. Okay, we'll hit F12. And it's just booting off of the hard drive. Okay, so I guess I didn't do that fast enough. Oh, you know what? I probably have to press F12 on the phone here. I was doing it on the USB keyboard, so yeah, we'll have to try that. And we are going to have to press this FN2 button down here, and then press the F1 key, because that's what actually corresponds to F12. So there we go. It says, please wait. And then we're going to go down to the DVD drive, press enter, or maybe not. Let's try that again. Huh. It's just not booting off of it. This is enter, right? Yeah, enter is select, so that should do it. I wonder if we have to try like a USB flash drive. Well, I couldn't get it to boot off of the disk drive, but I plugged in a USB flash drive and it booted off of that just fine. And I also rotated the smartphone so that we are now in the correct orientation. Hopefully we'll be able to change this if we can get Windows 8 installed, but as for now, everything is going to be kind of crammed. And I also think this is going to be one of the longest Windows 8 installations that I've ever had to sit through because, oh my gosh, this thing took a while just to boot up off the USB. And it couldn't find any drives. That's not good at all. Oh my gosh, you guys. Well, I finally, after like so many hours of troubleshooting, have something to show for it because I was able to get this thing to recognize the internal hard drive so we can now proceed with the Windows installation. However, a couple of things worth mentioning. Number one, this was only possible thanks to Janice Cycle, another YouTuber who has one of these things and made a few videos on it back a couple years ago. He sent over an eMMC driver, the one that he used in that video, because I was trying to extract the one from the Windows 7 install, and I spent a whole lot of time looking online for one, could not get a single one that worked. His is the only one that I have gotten to work with this thing so far, so I will have that link down below. Huge thank you to him for sending that over. Number two, I have decided to basically skip over Windows 8 and Windows 8.1 and try to install Windows 10, since I kind of realized we're not going to be able to do the upgrade from Windows 8 to 8.1 or from Windows 8.1 to Windows 10 because of the same hard drive storage limitation problem that we had going from Windows 7 to Windows 8, because both of those other versions require at least 16 gigabytes of free hard drive space, which we're certainly not going to have. However, and I guess this is a third thing now, this is not the latest version of Windows 10. This is actually the November 2021 update, or 21H2, which is one release behind the latest release, because I was not able to get 22H2 to even boot on this thing. The setup would not load, it just got stuck on the boot screen. So, we are going to be installing this. This is the same version that Janicycle installed in his video, or in one of his videos about this thing. And we're just going to go back here. I was in the driver loading screen. I've already loaded this, but now you can see we've got 3 partitions. So this first one up here that is 8 GB in size is actually the restore partition for getting this thing back to its factory Windows 7 installation. Definitely not going to overwrite that, or the 200 MB system partition. The installer will not allow us to do that anyways unless we format the drive. So we're going to install this on partition 3, which is what currently has Windows 7 on it. So we're just going to say next. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot, this isn't going to overwrite everything. It will move some stuff over to a windows.old folder, which actually, it may not be able to do this, depending on how large that folder is going to be, but we'll just see what happens. We're just going to let it do its thing, and hopefully this will actually be successful. Okay, well, maybe not surprisingly, we have encountered even more issues trying to get this thing to install. The first major one being that the phone actually overheated and the Windows installation just crashed and went back to the phone interface. So I then restarted it and let it go back through the setup process, and now we're getting to this screen right here where it's asking us to get an update that it needs to connect to the internet to acquire. The only problem is at this point the system does not recognize the Wi-Fi adapter built into the phone, so when you click on next, it does not give you the option to connect to a Wi-Fi network as it says right here. However, I am going to try and use this USB Ethernet adapter to see if we can get that to work, which, I mean, that's going to be probably, I don't know, a 50-50 chance, but let me plug that in to my USB adapter here, which you can see we are using up all the ports on that, and let's just see what happens if we click on next. Now, I did watch the rest of Janicycle's video just to kind of get a feel for what I'm going to have to be dealing with here. And the long and short of it is, it doesn't sound very fun. It took him, I think he said, like 6 hours to get Windows 10 installed. He even had to bypass part of the setup by enabling the administrator account by pressing Shift F10 to get to the command prompt because it just kept getting caught in this loop. And then it took him even more time to install all the drivers for this thing. And even after doing all that, the phone is still extremely slow running Windows 10, which, I mean, is not really surprising. So yeah, we're going to see how successful we are here. I did not try this Ethernet adapter before, so if you don't have any method for it to connect to the internet to download whatever update it needs, it will sit on this screen for a while and then just restart and go back to that same screen. So we are caught in a loop right now if we cannot get past this screen by using this Ethernet adapter. So yeah, we're going to give it some time, probably a lot of time, and just see what happens. Okay, well, that didn't work. Big surprise there, right? So let me see if I can figure something out here. Okay, well, the thing I've decided to do is just basically give up on trying to get Windows 10 working on here, because I've tried a few different things to see if we can get around this problem, and, well, long story short, none of those have been successful. I did try just to run Explorer.exe right from here, by, you know, accessing the command prompt, and it's been sitting here ever since, and that was like an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. So that's just not going to start. And like I said, from what I saw in Janicycle's video, even getting Windows 10 installed on this thing is just like a real waste of time, other than to say that you did it, because of how unusable that the operating system is. So I will leave his video down below if you would like to go and check that out, but I did think of something else we can do that may actually allow us to go through with a Windows version update, and that is using an unofficial, really slimmed down version of Windows 7 that takes up far less space on the hard drive. And specifically, I'm talking about Windows 7 Super Nano, which I've copied over to this USB here. This is very similar to another Windows bootleg called Tiny 7 that I explored on this channel many years ago, but the reason why that I'm choosing this version is because apparently, at least according to the the Crusty Windows Wiki, a great resource for these bootleg versions, by the way. You cannot install Service Pack 1 on Tiny 7. There's some sort of bug that prevents you from doing that, which is required to go through with a Windows 8 upgrade. So this already has SP1 pre-installed on it, so theoretically we should be able to install this and then try to upgrade to Windows 8 if it will allow us to do that. So we're going to go ahead and plug in that USB stick to our hub here, and then I'm going to do a force power off on this phone here, which you have to do by just holding down the Windows button on the side until it turns off, and it'll switch back over to the phone interface, and then we will press it again to boot into Windows 7, and then I need to get access to the boot menu here, and then we'll just need to go down to our USB drive and press enter, and we should, after I press any key to boot off the USB, we should start booting into this Windows 7 setup. Now I'm going to have to do the exact same thing I did in the Windows 10 setup and load those drivers. I do have those copied over to the same USB. So now we just got to play the waiting game once again, and I sure hope this doesn't take as long as the Windows 10 install did, and that it actually, finishes the whole thing. Well, that sure is a sight that I like to see. This setup completed without any issues, although I guess I shouldn't jinx myself because we're not technically through the setup entirely, but it did go through that whole portion, copying files and everything. We're here at the out-of-box experience, and it did go pretty quickly too, which, I guess that isn't surprising at all with this thing originally running Windows 7, but we're just gonna call this, 7 Phone, actually. And I'm curious about a couple things. First of all, I want to see if it's able to recognize our USB Ethernet adapter, and just what other stuff that it recognizes. Like, does the touchscreen work? Maybe it's got the Wi-Fi driver installed already. Oh, and look at that, we got command prompt going on here. Oh, you know what? This is it's probably got some, post-install script or something. And it apparently is trying to install a driver that it cannot verify the publisher of. It does not say what driver that is, but we're just going to install it anyway. I don't know if that's something to do with the bootleg, something it's trying to install as a part of some post-install script. You see we have the Chrome setup executable here. Oh, USB video.inf. Okay, so that's probably what it just tried to install. And we're back. That also worked without any issues. So yeah, it installed some drivers. I don't see that it has recognized that we're on the network, so it's probably not utilizing this USB Ethernet adapter. I'm also noticing that this looks to be a Russian bootleg because the system is set to Russian here. So I'm going to go into Control Panel. Okay, well, that was a complete waste of time, because I'm just discovering this now, because I've never really had to change the language on Windows 7 before, but apparently you can only use those language packs on Windows 7 Ultimate. This is based on Professional, so it's not going to work. There's no system language change option in the regional settings. So, yeah, we could either just go forward and, use this in Russian, and see how trying to install an English version of Windows 8 affects that. I have a feeling that's not going to work. But what I'm instead going to do, just to make my life a little bit easier, is install another bootleg of Windows 7 that also takes up way less space on the hard drive, called Windows 7 Super Lite, which I did in fact make a video on many years ago. The only unfortunate thing is it does take up significantly more space than this Super Lite version of Windows 7 here, or Super Nano, Nano Lite, whatever I said earlier. This, you can see, takes up 807 megabytes on the hard drive. Very, very impressive. Whereas Windows 7 Super Lite requires just under 4 gigabytes. So doing the math here, based on what Windows recognizes our hard drive capacity as here in disk properties, will leave us with a little under 18 gigabytes of free space that we can use to try and install Windows 8 on, which again needs 16 gigs, so it should work just fine. Right? I don't see any reason why that wouldn't work. Okay, we made it. So I'm actually going to immediately jump right into the Windows 8 install because I don't want to install anything else, even the drivers, just for fear of it taking up too much space on the drive, because you can see we have, yep, 18.6 gigabytes of free space. So I want to leave all of that for the Windows 8 install that I've got on this USB, and we'll just worry about the drivers later if we can even get this to install properly. So we'll pop that in. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on a second. This is Windows 7 Ultimate. Dang it. Okay, I need to get Windows 8 Pro, I'm pretty sure. Yep, that's much better. So now we get the option for keep Windows settings, personal files, and apps. And there we go, installing Windows 8. All right, so now we just got to play the waiting game once again and hope that it successfully installs. And check it out, we made it to our super crammed start menu. But yeah, the USB devices work. Let's see if the touchscreen, oh my gosh, the touchscreen works too. Look at that. Okay, so that's awesome. Let's go to our desktop, and God, this is so, like, ridiculously crammed. It looks like it didn't keep our desktop wallpaper, but let's go into File Explorer here because I want to check on how much disk space that we still have free. I also just heard a navigation sound effect play, so we've got sound working, and it looks like we have 11.1 gigabytes free, so not enough to upgrade to Windows 8.1 or 10, because they both also require 16 gigabytes of free space. However, we should be able to install the drivers for everything else, no problem. But I'm kind of curious to see, I mean, we got sound working, we got the touchscreen working. Did it just install a display driver that we can go in and, like, you know, set the resolution to whatever it was before? I mean, first of all, we have to change the orientation, I guess, to portrait is technically, you know, what it shows up as in here, even though it's, you know, we're in portrait right now on the phone. But yeah, we're just gonna set that and hit apply, and there we go. That looks very, very crammed. We'll just actually say revert because we also need to have it inverted, so flipped around the other way, because this connector is supposed to be facing the bottom, because if you had the docking accessory, that's where you would plug it in. So we're going to say keep changes. Okay, look at that. Your resolution is lower than 768 by 1024. Some items may not fit and apps may not open. Yeah, but we can't change the resolution. Okay, so that's definitely a problem. So we just probably have some generic driver loaded in here, so we'll actually set it back to landscape. But not to worry, I've got a whole bunch of drivers loaded on this USB here, including some chipset drivers, so we're going to run that and get these out of the way first. We're not going to bother having Windows Smart Screen come and complain. And there we go, looking good so far. Next up is the graphics driver, so we're going to go into the GMA folder. Because despite what it may look like here on the root of the drive, that Intel graphics folder is actually an audio driver. We have two audio drivers, this one as well as a Realtek high definition one. Both of those were on the driver website that I downloaded this from, so I just got both of them. So we're going to click on next. Oh, look, that's an awesome README, isn't it? Okay, we'll hit next. And there we go, it's installing. Oh no, the computer does not meet the minimum requirements for installing the song. Okay, great. Well, it said it wasn't going to install, but this progress bar is still going across here. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that actually worked. Okay, it installed the driver and changed the resolution, as you can see. And it just finished. I did notice too, it said that it was installing the audio driver as well. So I guess that this pack, you know, contains both of those, which means that other folder that's labeled Intel Graphics is probably just another graphics and audio driver that for some reason was listed separately on that website. But point is, we got the driver installed. Yeah, we're going to restart the computer. I don't really know what happened there. Something errored out, but then it just went on with the installer anyway. So cool. I'll take that. And well, that certainly looks a lot better. We can actually see the entire screen now. Yeah, let's just immediately hop into display properties and get this thing switched over to portrait, or maybe it'll actually show up as landscape now. Yeah, look at that. We're in portrait right now, so we want to set it to landscape. I am curious to see if it has to be landscape, or okay, it still needs to be landscaped inverted. So yeah, we'll just revert this and change that. I mean, it doesn't really matter technically at this point, but just to, you know, make this the way it would be if we were in the original Windows 7 install. We'll set this to flipped. And honestly, you know, I think that this brings us to a pretty decent stopping point for this video, because we did what we set out to do, at least partially. I mean, we got a Windows 7 to Windows 8 upgrade to work, although now we can't go to Windows 8.1 or Windows 10 because we don't have enough space on the hard drive for that upgrade to perform. And honestly, with how miserable it was doing a clean install of Windows 10, even if we did have enough space, I don't think that's something that I want to live through again. So I think we're just going to call it here. We got this thing running Windows 8. We have a display driver installed. So hey, I mean, there's certainly a possibility for some more experimenting with this device, maybe installing Linux on it or something like that in a future video. Be sure to let me know what you guys think. But as for now, that is going to wrap it up for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, get subscribed, maybe consider becoming a patron or a channel member to get early access to these videos before anybody else. But either way, I just want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.